Have you ever heard of Andre the Giant? He was the biggest man and the greatest wrestler the world has ever seen. In this video, you will learn the full story of his short but remarkable life, and find out how his daughter lives today. Is she really as huge as her father? Let's find out. Andre René Roussimoff was born on May 19, 1946, March 19, 1946, in the French town of Colomiers, to a family of Bulgarian and Polish immigrants, just a year after the end of the Second World War. He was the third child in a large family and was born on a farm along with his two brothers, Antoine and Jacques, and his sisters, Helena and Morissette. Andre wasn't always a giant. As a child, he was completely ordinary, just another kid fitting in. But when he was 12, he grew so much that he could no longer fit in the seat. At school, his parents didn't see his unusual height as a problem. On the contrary, they thought it was a blessing because Andre could be more helpful with the heavy work around the farm. Andre dreamed of learning to play the guitar, but his dream never came true. His fingers were just too big and thick to control the strings. He was also not enlisted in the French army. During the medical exam, the officials told him he was simply too large. At that time, Andre was already over 2 meters tall and weighed about 287 kilograms. It was during this time that he decided to pursue a career in wrestling, which quickly gained popularity. After moving to Paris, Andre decided it was time to change his life. He took a job as a loader, lifting heavy goods, and also began training with the goal of fulfilling his long-held dream of becoming a famous wrestler. He began performing under the name Giant Ferret and teamed up with promoter Frank Valois, who organized matches for him in France, Great Korea, Australia, and many African countries. Andre wrestled regularly and won every match. His extraordinary physical build left his opponents with no chance. It was during this time that French-Canadian wrestler Edouard Carpentier noticed him. He was impressed by his talent and potential and made sure that the young man's parents allowed him to move to Canada, where greater opportunities awaited. In 1970, Roussimoff traveled to Japan, where he was awarded the title Monster Andre. During a routine medical exam in Japan, he was diagnosed with acromegaly, a condition caused by excessive production of growth hormone, which continues even after reaching adulthood. This leads to the enlargement of the body. Similar health issues have arisen in other well-known wrestlers and actors, such as Igor Vovkovinsky, Big Show, and Giant Gonzalez. 2 of them died before the age of 50. Doctors informed Andre that without surgery, he might not even live to 40 years old, but he was afraid of losing the very thing that made him a star: his extraordinary physical presence. So he chose to accept his fate and live as he wanted, to the fullest. Andre adopted the name The Giant and began working with the WWF. In the ring, he appeared as indispensable, a colossus, and his matches with players like John Studd and Killer Khan attracted a huge number of spectators. Fans began to call him the 8th wonder of the world. He went on to face Hulk Hogan in 2 legendary matches. He lost the first one in 1987, but returned the next year to claim victory, receiving great acclaim. As his illness progressed, he began to engage in sports with other players. As a result, Andre found it more difficult to remain active in solo matches, so he was often invited to participate in tag team events, where the physical demands were somewhat more manageable. Alongside his wrestling, Andre also took part in acting. Audiences remember him for his roles as Nestor Vargas in Zorro and Daggett in Conan the Destroyer, but his favorite role was Fezzik, the gentle giant, in the fairy tale film The Princess Bride. In one scene, his character had to lift Robin Wright's character in his arms. But due to a recent spinal surgery, Andre was provided with protection. However, this did not diminish the film's chance. Andre's pain caused constant discomfort, which he tried to alleviate with alcohol. This led to his unofficial reputation as the loudest drinker in history. Friends believe he could drink from 119 to 166 beers in one party. In Canada, Andre received the name Andre the Giant, which stayed with him for life. He continued to win matches and quickly rose through the ranks of professional wrestling. In 1974, he was featured in Guinness. He was featured in the Guinness Book of World Records as the highest-paid wrestler. At that moment, however, behind the scenes, many called him the loudest beer drinker on earth. This nickname wasn't just for show. Very few people could claim they could drink 42 liters of beer in 6 hours. In one document, 2 acquaintances of Andre confirmed that they personally saw him drink more than 73 liters of beer in one evening. Perhaps the most legendary beer story from Andre happened on the night when he sat in the lobby and drank 127 cans of beer. After finishing, he promptly fell asleep right there on the table. The hotel staff tried to move him, but quickly realized it was impossible. In the end, they had no choice but to let the giant sleep where he was until he woke up on his own the next day. The 2018 documentary shed light on the reasons behind Andre's life. As it turned out, he was constantly in pain, especially in his back and legs. His pelvis simply couldn't withstand the stress of his enormous size and weight. Andre's existence could have been implied with surgery on his chest. This would have stopped his growth and allowed him to adapt, either naturally or with the help of additional surgeries. But Andre was simultaneously against the idea. His entire career, his entire identity, and he had been built on being a giant. Going under the knife to stop his growth felt completely wrong to him. The pain, often unbearable, wasn't his only struggle. The world around him simply wasn't built for someone his size. He couldn't fit in a regular car. Getting into elevators was a challenge. And standard doorways were a tight squeeze. Eventually, Andre had to build a custom home where everything from door frames to furniture was specifically designed for his massive frame. He also needed clothing and shoes made to order. Tailors and shoemakers had to address the immense pressure he put on his feet, creating items that could support the weight of such a large man. Flying was another challenge. Andre always required 2 seats on an airplane, and using the airplane restroom was impossible. He simply didn't fit inside. To address the issue, airlines would sometimes curtain off an area around him and provide him with a bench so he could relax without being confined to his seat. All of this was detrimental to his independence, constantly reminding him that he was different, that he didn't fit into the normal world. It was deeply painful. On one hand, his uniqueness made him a star. On the other, it reminded him daily that he was out of place. That constant emotional conflict, his friends believed, is what drove Andre to drink. Alcohol became his only escape from a reality that never let him forget. He was not like everyone else. Andre the Giant, once the highest-paid wrestler in the world, was surrounded by legendary athletes and actors. Among his friends were Muhammad Ali, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Peter Maivia. The brother of Hollywood star Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Andre died on July 27, 1993, June 27, 1993, in the living room where he was traveling for his father's celebration. The cause of death was heart failure. His body simply couldn't give him more time. At that time, he weighed over 560 pounds and was almost 7 feet tall and stood nearly a meter. He officially retired from wrestling in 1992. Slinger in 1992 and no more. Year and did not win in the ring. His family hoped to bury Andre next to his father, but according to his wishes, his body was cremated, and his ashes were spread on his ranch in Ellerbe, North Carolina. It was a place Andre loved dearly, where he spent time caring for animals and playing with his favorite dog. After Andre's death, his entire estate was managed by his daughter, Robin. During his life, Andre was not in contact with her and was estranged from her, as he never married her mother. Very little is known about Andre the Giant's personal life, and he never entered into a legal marriage. Incredibly, he had a daughter with Jean Christensen, Robin Christensen Roussimoff. Andre, who struggled with alcohol, spent a brief period with Jean, a former model who later worked as a journalist. Their relationship was short, and it remains unknown whether they were ever married. Instead of speculating on what happened, no legal documentation has surfaced to confirm it. Perhaps they went their separate ways by the time their daughter was born, and it was a surprise to both. In the early 1990s, Jean shared her memories in an interview, revealing that she believed Andre was infertile. Initially, Andre acknowledged that he was the father, and this was verified by a blood test to confirm his paternity. After that, he began paying child support, initially $750 a month, and then increasing the amount to $1,000. Robin Christensen Roussimoff was born in 1979, despite being legally acknowledged. Instead of being legally recognized by her famous father, Andre had no contact with her, and only provided wise financial support. According to Jean Christensen, by the time Robin was 12 years old, she had seen her father only 4 times. Once as a child, again around 1 year old, then at 4 years old, and finally in November 1991, when their meeting lasted only 5 minutes. As Robin grew older, she began to realize that her legendary father was mostly a stranger to her. In an interview, she once reflected that he was just my father, but also not. You know what I mean? This complex relationship continued into adulthood. She tried to learn more about him by talking to players who knew him, but as she stated, in an interview with CBS Sports in 2015, if you're not part of the industry, it's very hard to find someone who would open up. Even so, Robin believed that if Andre had lived longer, their relationship would have grown stronger. Instead of emotional distance, Andre was sure he would support his daughter in her endeavors, leaving her a significant portion of the income generated by his merchandise. A legacy that she continues to receive to this day. When it comes to physical presence, Robin certainly shares many of her father's features. Small eyes, a broad jaw, and strong cheekbones. Signs of gigantism are also evident in her appearance. Robin stands about 5 feet 11 inches and weighs over 220 pounds. Today, Robin is known by the nickname Daughter of the Great Andre, a title she has embraced as she continues her father's legacy in the world of wrestling. Working with WWE, she earns around $500,000 annually. However, like her legendary father, Robin keeps a low profile and usually avoids the media. She is very private about her personal life and has never married. In 2024, Robin celebrated her 45th birthday and enjoys life on her own terms. She values her independence, travels often, and lives free from societal expectations. According to CBS Sports, Robin is actively involved in all projects that use her father or his likeness, whether it's video games, merchandise, or other forms of media. She also maintains a close relationship with WWE. In 2017, Robin attended a WWE SmackDown event, where she met Natalya Neidhart, the daughter of Jim Neidhart, one of Andre's former revolutionaries. In 2020, when Robin made an appearance, in an interview with Sports Illustrated, Robin spoke about her father, who was the most iconic figure in film. She recalled her appearance in the 1987 classic, The Princess Bride, where he played the lovable giant Fezzik. When my mom brought me to the set, I still remember the moment when they decided to kill Buttercup. I exclaimed, "That's my dad," Robin recalled. He was incredibly thrilled with that role. In many cases, he embodied that role. He was so kind. Everyone brought so much heart to their work. And it showed, as Robin also mentioned that her father worked with talented actors like Mandy Patinkin and Cary Elwes. Cary later invited Robin to a special screening of the film in Brooklyn. Of all the people my father worked with in football and Hollywood, Cary is one of those I love talking about him with, she told CBS Sports. In 2018, when the documentary Andre the Giant was released, Robin gave several interviews. She expressed hope that the film would help fans understand who her father really was, not just as Andre the Giant, but as a real person. "That public persona never meant much to me," Robin said. "When I saw him, he was just my dad. I watched him on stage, not in the ring. I didn't follow the matches. I saw him from the front of the stage, so I saw the before and after, but not the after. He really was a gentle giant." Instead of being in a complicated relationship in her life, Robin Christensen Rousimov became a living continuation of Andre the Giant. No one is without flaws. And perhaps now, looking down, Andre is truly proud of the woman his daughter has become. Let us know in the comments what you think about this story. Was it the right decision for Robin to follow in her father's footsteps? That's all from me for today. Take care and see you next time.